So this is a training for hiring managers on what we're looking at for the philosophy behind the student employment and some of the processes on how to do it. So first, what I want to show you is just the general workflow. Now this is for hiring managers and for students. So the hiring managers, I sent out that email for potential hiring managers and we had our training, and some of you weren't able to come to the training, so I'm recording this so you can have the information here, and I'm going to send it to those that did attend in person too, just so they have it. And the flow will be as you submit your positions to HR. Several of you already have. Some of you might be deciding what you're going to need yet for this fall. You may not know yet, but that's okay. In a lot of this, I want you to know this is kind of it's a prototype. It's step one, phase one of this process. So it's going to evolve and transform over time. And I definitely want your input during this process. So this is what I have now. This is a philosophy that I'm working from, and then we're going to develop it to make sure it meets your needs and the students' needs as we go. So it's not set in stone, but this is kind of what we're working with. Then when you have your position posted, what I need you to do is monitor the people admin regularly. Because what's happened in the past, you don't get an automatic email when somebody applies. And so it's easy in your day-to-day work to forget to check that. And it can load up with students. You might have 20 students who applied and you haven't even checked on them. So I want you to go in there regularly to check and see who's there. And to give yourself a timeline even. We're going to be focusing on this for these 2 weeks and then have the interviews and make our decision, however that works for you. But check that regularly and then set up those interviews so you can get the students through. Ultimately, not this year, but somewhere down the road, I'd like to have it where the students that you don't accept will go back into a pool, and then we can work with them looking at their skill set or the things that they want to get good at and recommend jobs for them. So moving them through as quickly as possible will be very important. Working on that now will be helpful. Then what you'll do is inform HR that we've made our decision, we've decided to hire Junior, and therefore you can let all the rest of them know that they're not the candidate for this one, and then HR will send them out an email. And so if that doesn't happen, what I found over time is there are some positions out there from even 2 years ago that still have 30-some applicants in there waiting who have never heard that they weren't hired for that position. So this is just kind of a pothole that's developed along the way that things get lost in. So one of the steps that we're going to want you to do is as you get that person, as you decide who they are, make sure you let HR know so we can continue the process. And then you'll do whatever kind of departmental onboarding that you do with them. Now, the other side, you see the students. We're going to outreach any potential student workers. We're going to do that through their email, through advertisements. The work study students, we have the list of the people that qualified for work study, so we're going to actually text them to try and bring them in. And then we're going to have a student worker job fair. And before that, or as part of that, I hope to have a resume cover letter workshop with Michigan Works. So we're developing all that, and I'll tell you about that in a little bit, the next one coming up. But so there'll be that side, so they can work on the resume cover letter. They can go to the job fair, or if it's after that, they just go to the website to sign up for your job. They complete their application, and then you have your departmental onboarding. I also want to put together, or am putting together, a student onboarding, a student employee onboarding that I'll show you later. I have a D2L course shell that I've put together with that. And so I want to do that possibly live with the first group of students that get in early in the year, but then also have that be an ongoing issue, ongoing training for them down the road for new students, but then ongoing student professional development too. So these might be topics that you see as necessary that it would benefit several students, not just from your department. In our live training, somebody brought up the idea of teaching them how to use Word and Excel and some of those kind of tools more effectively. So instead of just doing a training for that department, we could offer a general professional development training, or it could be on customer service, could be on all kinds of things. So I'd like that to be an ongoing process. So today, as we look at the manager side, I want you to remember the college's pathway that we have. We have either the career pathway or the transfer pathway. The career pathway is to end up with a good paying job. Transfer is to move on, but obviously after that, a job is the ultimate goal. And so we want to see student employment as part of that process. The students are working here for us at Delta, and so part of what we want to do with them is to train them how to be good workers so that they can ultimately reach these goals. There's a study out there. I did a lot of looking at Gen Z students for another thing that I put together, but one of the studies said 1 in 6 companies are hesitant to hire recent college graduates. They did a survey of 966 business leaders, so this was a big survey. And what they found from that was 75% of them said that all or some of their recent graduates that they hired were unsatisfactory. So those are the people that are going to be applying for your jobs. They're coming in with some sort of a deficit, and we're going to look at that. But they're also the ones leaving Delta to look for those well-paying jobs. So part of our responsibility, I believe, is to prepare them to not be part of that 75%. Prepare them to be the 25% that they're happy that they hired. And if we can do that, that's just another good step, another service that we're offering our students. What they said was they're unprepared for the workforce, they can't handle the workload, and they're unprofessional. And I wouldn't doubt that several of you have experienced that with some of the students that you've hired recently. 9 out of 10 said that they need etiquette training. And so part of what we'll be doing with that ongoing professional development is providing some of that etiquette training in the form of durable skills and soft skills and those kind of things. And I'll explain some of that as we go. Now, right from the start, I want you to know that I'm not expecting you to do all of this. You have a part in this, but a lot of this extra training, that's going to be put on by the career discovery. It's going to, with HR's help, we're going to work on that side of things. Your job is to train them how to do their job and have expectations for them and that kind of a thing. But I want to work with you to help enhance their abilities for finding a better job in the future, but also to be better employees while they're working for you. So we're going to look at durable skills versus perishable skills. You might have heard soft skills and hard skills. I like this way of saying it because what we used to call hard skills, learning how to code, learning how to run a machine, learning how to file or use Microsoft Word or whatever, those kinds of things, they're considered perishable in the sense that technology changes so quickly that if you went to school and learned how to do something 5 years ago and never progressed in or never retrained or continued your education in that, it may be out of date by now. So they're perishable in the sense that they need to be renewed over time. Or if you move from one position to another, you're going to have to learn the skills that fit for that job. So that's what those skills are. The durable skills are the ones that these hiring managers are complaining about. Durable skills are the kinds of things that last throughout your lifetime. If when you're 15, you learn how to be polite to people, you learn how to handle frustration, you learn proper communication skills, those same skills are going to help you when you're 55. And so those are the ones that we really want to work on. And they're the ones that you don't tend to teach at college. That's where we can come in as hiring managers and as the career discovery side, helping you to teach them how to do these kinds of things. In fact, some of the other research I found, reasons that recent college graduate hires haven't been successful. So they interviewed these people, the 966 business people, and these are the things they came up with, the top reasons why. And if you notice, of these 10, there's only 2 of them that are the perishable skills side of things, the lack of relevant work experience and insufficient technical skills. All the rest of these are durable skills. So if we can help our students learn and grow in these areas, they're going to be much more of an asset when it comes time to interviewing for a future job, getting a future job, getting promotions. They're going to be more successful, but they'll also be more helpful for you right now over the next year or 2 while they work for you. So that's going to be our focus as we're moving forward with this. Now, I want to talk about a philosophy for student employment. And this is a baseline philosophy. This is an ideal. We're not going to get there next week. We can't shift gears or turn the boat completely around immediately. We're working on a live organism, but this is a philosophy to move toward. Seeing employment as an extension of their education. Like I said, some of those perishable skills, some of those traits and things that they can learn, they're learning in class, and there's some carryover with durable skills in class. But most of that is going to be taught on the job, and that's where we can come in. So we can see ourselves as another part of the student's education as opposed to just a place where students come and work to get some extra money. This is a place for them to develop those durable skills, their soft skills. And, with that, let me just say, if they're going to develop them, we have to assume they're coming in without a lot of them. If 75% of the students in that one survey didn't have them, we can assume that ours are the same way. So as we look at hiring people, we have to consider the fact that they may not already come in with excellent customer service and excellent phone skills and knowing what it means to dress appropriately for work and knowing communication and those kind of things, knowing they shouldn't just be on their cell phone while they're sitting at the desk waiting for another person to come in. These are things they may not know yet, but that's okay. We'll get to how to work through that process. We want to instill a positive work ethic in them. What it means to care about your job and to put in a good day's work while you're there. We want to encourage them to take chances, and I'm thinking of the growth mindset idea. It's okay to take a chance and fail as long as I'm willing to learn from it, instead of being too afraid to even take a chance. So we want to encourage taking chances. Consider yourself a mentor versus a manager. When you think about it, a manager is interested in the job that gets done, the tasks. A mentor is interested in the person. Now, your role is kind of a blend of both of these. Obviously, tasks need to get done, and if somebody's not doing it, the manager side comes in to correct them and redirect them. But the mentor is the one who sees them as an individual who has the capability of growing into this. And the more we can move ourselves into that role, or maybe just a more positive blend of those two roles, the better off we're going to be with the students that we work with your satisfaction of their work, but also ultimately with their preparation to get into the workforce. So thinking of yourself as a mentor, starting to switch that philosophy in your mind. Think about what we can offer them versus what they can offer us. In other words, as we look at the job description, and I emailed a document with all this that talks about this philosophy. It also gives an idea for a new way of doing a job description. When you think about that, instead of having it with the idea that when you come work here for me, you're going to do this, 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 and this. What I want you to think of is when you come to work here for me, this is what you're going to learn by being here. You're going to learn how to use Microsoft Office effectively. You're going to learn positive customer service skills. You're going to learn effective phone skills. You're going to learn how to work as a team. These are, instead of saying you already need to be proficient in this before I hire you, then what we want to say is by coming and working for me, you're going to learn how to do this proficiently. And let me tell you why. If I have an expectation that a student is already going to be really good at customer service, a student is already going to be really good at teamwork, they're already going to be good at working well with their supervisor, and if the chances are 75% of the people that I hire aren't going to be, I'm setting myself up to be frustrated with them, to be disappointed by them, and I'm bringing them in kind of behind the eight ball right off the bat, or they may not even apply for the job, even if they'd have been an excellent worker, because they don't have those skills yet. Now, there's things that we can look for and things that we can expect from them, and I'll talk about those, but the skills and some of those durable skills, those are things that we need to expect to have to teach them, because they are not there. And so if I'm assuming they're going to be there, I'm just going to be frustrated. So what I want you to do is start thinking about what I can offer you. What are you going to get from our department by working for us? And we will build you up. And then as you do that, I think they'll end up becoming a better employee anyway, which will still make you happier in the long run. And then you have a partnership with Career Discovery and with HR. Again, and I really, really want to emphasize this. This is not just a big heavy load that we're putting on you and saying, you need to change, you need to do it this way. This is me saying, I want to work with you and help you develop this. And so there's a philosophical change to make, and there's a different way of looking at things that will affect you. But carrying all this out, we're going to do that with you. We're going to work with you on this process to make this change. It's not going to happen by this fall. It's going to take a while to make this change, but we're moving in that direction. So the help that you're going to get from Career Discovery, that employee onboarding D2L course, what I'll do is I'll show you that at the end, but your students will be enrolled in that actually right when somebody applies is what we're thinking at this point. When a student applies, we'll enroll them in that course because there's all kinds of resources in there. Part of it will be helping them prepare for interviewing with you. So that will be there before they even get to you if they take advantage of it. But then the student employees that you do have, you can assign them sections of that as part of their onboarding so that they learn some of these things. And then we're going to have ongoing professional development. It'll be held live, and then obviously if it's on a Wednesday and your students only work Tuesday, Thursday, they can't make it, we'll either record that or make a similar one like it to make available to them. Probably hosted in that D2L course shell just so that there's a way for them to access it all in one area. That would probably be the easiest. That's the thought anyway. But these would be those things like I referred to earlier, that if several people are seeing our students are really struggling with knowing how to use Microsoft Office, we can just have a professional development on how to use Microsoft Office or whatever it happens to be. So we'll just have ongoing ones about that and about those durable skills and work ethic and those types of things. So that's coming from us. That's not something you have to do. And then when things go wrong, you're going to hire students under this model. You're going to bring students in, well, even without this, you're going to bring students in that aren't prepared and that end up letting you down. Maybe they show up late, they're 20 minutes late for 3 days in a row, and you're struggling with that. What am I supposed to do with them? Rather than just firing them right away, what I'd like to do is kind of create a plan to help them, kind of like our performance improvement plans that we have for us, to help them see what's going on and have them come up with a plan on how to fix it. Now that I would like to have you pass over to myself or to HR. We'll work together with you to come up with that. So again, it's something we want to support you in. Obviously, they're your employees, so I want your input and your involvement, but I don't want you to have to take hours and hours of your time to try and help them. Now, if they get to the point where they just aren't willing to change and it just isn't working out, then we can let people go, because that also is a good training, a good, what's the word I'm looking for? Just a reality check for the students, that if you don't do what you're supposed to do, if you have a bad attitude, if you don't follow your supervisor, at some point you're going to get fired. And it's better for them to learn now at a student job than when they get a job that they're trying to support their family on down the road. So that could be an effective part of their training too, if they actually have to get let go. But I don't want that to be the first thing. I want us to assume that they don't know a lot of these things and that we need to bring in that process of working with them. So first, I want to focus on the job description. I think if we kind of start right from there. Like I said, I included that, and so you can read through it in the email. I gave you a document as just kind of a guideline to think about. But what I want you to consider is the title of the position right from the start. Instead of just financial aid student worker or whatever it happens to be, admission student worker, think of a title that kind of describes the position a little bit more, because we want to reach out. We want students to look at these and ultimately pick a job that's going to fit what they like, but the skills that they want to develop for moving forward into their career. And with the title is the position summary. Think about writing them in a way, and I give some examples just to think through, but writing it in a way that's going to let them know what they're going to be doing in words that they'll understand. And you might need to have even some of your students read through it and help you work through some of that, or use AI to come up with some ideas. But in that title and summary, to really explain to them what this position is, as opposed to just the department it's for. For the duties, think about it as this is what you're going to get to do, as opposed to here's a whole list of things that none of us really want to do, so we're going to have you do it. It's the idea that by working here, you're going to be able to learn how to file. You're going to be able to learn how to organize things. You're going to be able to learn how to plan activities. You're going to be able to learn how to whatever it might be. But think of the duties in that kind of a way to, again, it's centered on them. What are they going to be able to do by working for me, as opposed to what do you have to do to work here? It's subtle, but there's a difference. Now we're going to look at the skills that they're going to develop in this position. And here's a key one where I want to get a little bit away from saying that you have to have excellent customer service skills. You have to have excellent Microsoft Office skills. Because, well, two reasons. One of them is if a student doesn't have that yet, they may not apply for the job, but they may have been an incredible worker. But they didn't see themselves as having excellent Microsoft Office skills, so they didn't apply. So that's one reason. The other reason is if we're assuming that they're already prepared and we're looking for somebody at that caliber, we should be hiring a full-time employee. If you're hiring an OP, then you can look at it as, yes, they need to have these skills because that's what I expect. I expect them to hit the ground running. If you're hiring a student worker, that's an unfair expectation. Some of these students have never had a job. Some of them are young enough that they don't know what the workforce is like. They don't realize, if you say dress appropriately, I'm not sure what that means. Your view of that and my view of that could be very different. If I tell you you need to answer the phone politely, what does that mean to you? So we're going to have to explain some of these things. So there's a difference that I want you to think about. The skills, those soft skills, even the perishable skills that you're going to train them for your job, don't expect them to already know that, but present it as this is what you're going to get to develop while you're in this position. And then what they can do is, if that's something I want to do down the road, I'm going to want to work for you so I can learn how to do it. And if they want to work for you, they're going to want to learn how to do that. They're going to put effort into it. And that's where this next one comes in. We can have expectations. And what I want you to think of for these expectations are maybe character traits rather than skills. So you don't have to just hire somebody who has no skills and doesn't know anything and hope for the best and you're going to have to struggle with it. That's not what I mean. What I mean is character traits are things like willingness to learn, be available during scheduled times, somebody who understands right up front, that's what I'm expecting from you, to give your best effort. Those kinds of things. I can expect that from somebody, but if you are telling me you're willing to learn, you're willing to give your best effort, but you don't know anything about how to use Word and Excel, okay, I can teach you that. But if you're not willing to learn and I'm trying to teach you how to do it, then that's where we're going to be banging heads and it just isn't going to happen. And that's where we need to sit down with them and say, okay, listen, you came in saying that you're willing to learn, and yet we're trying to teach you this and that's not happening. You said you understand that you need to be available during scheduled times, and yet you're showing up 25 minutes late every time. So that's something we can now talk about. So these expectations that we have, I think, are more character traits, and the skills are things that we can assume that we're going to have to teach them rather than expecting them to come in with them. So I hope that makes sense. In the live session, we were able to talk through this for quite a while. If it doesn't make sense to you, then please contact me and we'll talk some more about what I'm thinking here. Then something about your supervisory style. Now, you can put that in here. You can talk about it with them in the interview, but I think it needs to come up, or maybe just in your orientation. But at some point, your supervisory style needs to come in. And we're going to actually give you some resources to help you figure out your supervisory style. HR has something that we're going to pass along to you to be able to do that. But the reason for that is if a student doesn't know your style, maybe your style is in the beginning, I'm going to give you something, and I'm going to check back in and see how you're doing. And then when it's done, I'll give you something else, and it's very involved. They might feel like, wow, this person doesn't like me, they don't trust me. And they may misinterpret what you're doing. You might be very intentional on how you do it, but if they don't know what you're doing, they could misinterpret it and see it the wrong way. Or maybe your style is, I'm going to give it to you, and if you have any questions, please come and see me. And if they don't know that, they might feel like you just kind of left them out to dry and they have to make things up and they don't want to bother you because you're too busy. So they just do things and try it and make mistakes and then you get upset with them. So I just ask you to work with them, whether it's stating something in here in the interview or definitely during your orientation time. Let them know how you operate so that they know what to expect. The more we can be upfront with people in the beginning, the more we can avoid some of those problems down the road. And then I want to tell them what to expect at the interview. What are the next steps? So even having that right in the job description, that the next steps are you need to make sure you turn on voicemail on your phone so I can get back with you. You make sure that you're checking your Delta email regularly. So if I contact you, you can get back with me so that we can have an interview, because we talked about how that's an issue a lot of times. You try to reach students and can't. It might be to tell them just a little bit about what the interview will be like. I'd like you to come dressed in, nice jeans and a nice shirt, or however you want to say what you need to do in a way that helps them understand. We're going to sit down for about a half hour, and I'm just going to ask you some questions and talk to get to know you, because they may have never had an interview before, and this will help them prepare. Now, this is also where hopefully they'll have looked through some of the materials that talk about how to interview before they come in. So that part we're going to negotiate over time and kind of see what's the best way to do that. But bringing it up right in the job description may be a good way to go. Now, we're going to have a student worker job fair coming up. I want either the manager or a representative to be there at the job fair, to be at one of the tables in order for us to be able to now then post your position. We need to have you physically there, you or somebody from your office physically there to present your positions to the students. It's going to be on Monday, July 14th from 10 to 1, and it's outside of the D-wing area, so it's in that hallway. So we're going to have a bunch of tables in the hallway there. And what I want you to do, you don't have to rewrite your job description yet, but look at that example and at least come up with a list of benefits that students will gain by working for your department. And I'm also putting together kind of some other ideas of things that you can bring with you, but something to think about is bring something tangible that kind of represents your department. I want it to be more of a kind of like when you are at a conference and they have the section with all the vendors there, and they're trying to draw you in so that you look at their table and you're interested and you say, I want to know more about this. That's kind of the feel that I want, rather than just a long string of tables that says, it's for this job or this job or this job, and sign up here if you're interested. I want it to be something where we're drawing students in and they're looking at your job to see, what does it mean to work for you? What things will I learn? How will that help me in my future? And so if you have some kind of stuff there to draw them in, then I think that would be helpful. But I'm going to send out another email with some ideas on that. So the interview process for the hiring manager. Determine your hiring timeline, so you have that in your mind, so then you remember to keep checking regularly to see what students are there. Check your people admin daily, so you stay up on that. Choose your candidates and set up the interview times. Fill out a spreadsheet. I have a question mark here. I like the spreadsheet that HR's put together for us for hiring full-time employees and part-time employees. And so I think something like that would be good for a couple of reasons. One of them is, if you have on there reasons why you didn't hire these students, it doesn't have to be extremely detailed, and you don't have to create it. We'll come up with something and we'll give it a try. So that's why it's a question mark. This will be developed over time. But the goal, again, like I said, in the long term is when I have this group of students, if 20 people apply and you hire 2, that leaves 18 students that didn't get hired. I'd like to be able to work with them and find out from you some reasons why they weren't hired so we can work on that, but also then help them find other positions. So your feedback during this process will be very helpful in that. So we want to come up with a way that it's easy for you to give feedback, but something that's very concrete that we can then work with to help the student. So that's why I wrote that one down. And then you'll inform HR of your final choice. So we're going to create some kind of a form that the students will be given, and then they take to you to find out about the job, and then if you're interested, then they'll come over to HR to get their paperwork done. Then they'll go to financial aid, or maybe financial aid would be first to see if there's federal work study available. So we're going to figure out all that, but there's some kind of a form that we're going to work with. But that way we make sure we close the gap and don't have these loopholes. I've had students email me saying, hey, I applied for this job and I haven't heard anything from it. And I don't want that to be dragging on for a real long time. So hopefully having this paper trail will help. They don't actually start until that's completed, and then we'll know where things are at. So HR will determine their start date, and then you inform the student that, or they'll inform the student of that. Ask HR to close the position or keep it open for other students, but communicate with them. When you hire junior, then let them know that, okay, we're done. We hired our person. You can let everybody else know. Because then HR will contact all the others and say, sorry, you didn't get this position, but feel free to sign up for other ones and so forth. So again, making sure that that communication happens. And that form will hopefully do that. Or if you have other ideas to remember how to do that, let me know, and we'll come up with some sort of a policy for that. And I'm also going to create, the people at the live session thought maybe a D2L course shell would be a good way to do it, but to create a hiring manager's manual in a place that's easy to find. And then if you have questions about certain things and want to know the exact process, and I can put together some forms to follow, and also just like an infographic on you do this and this and this, so to make this as easy as possible. So that also will be coming as we develop more of this process. So that's all that I have for this. What I'm going to do is walk you into the course shell that I have to just show you a little bit about what's going on in there. And then as you complete this, I will enroll you in that. And make sure you fill out the form that I included in the email with this to let me know that you've completed this training. And by doing that, then I will put you into that course shell. Okay, here's the course shell that I have for the students. And what I'll probably do is have one for each year, because we'll enroll students in it and we don't want the list to get bigger and bigger and bigger and that kind of a thing. But this is a trial thing, and we'll see how this goes. But right on the home page, there's a welcome and a video for the students to kind of walk them through how to use the course shell. But then if we go into content, what I want you to notice as you're getting into yours, let me go back to the beginning here. First, you'll see this section, info for hiring supervisors, and this is hidden. If I was logged in as a student, this wouldn't even show up as an option. And in here, there's a video that walks you through what's going on and how to use this resource. So that'll tell you a little bit more about that. But we have the Student Employment Foundations, which are a lot of good resources for the students. Here's a link to the handbook online. But then under these foundational topics, I have a bunch of information here. And the way you could use this is just to have this as part of your onboarding for your students, that the first week you're going to go through and do these, and then maybe sit down with me as your manager to let me know what kind of things you learned in here. So there's work strategies, learning, asking questions, different things like that. And then there's a section that's about soft skills, about durable skills. There's tools in here that you can use. So again, you'll see this part the students can see. This part is for you. And I will explain that a little bit more detail in the video here for supervisors. But these are things, and I want to add to this over time. These are assignments that if your students are struggling with certain things, that you can assign this to them, and then they can watch some videos and fill it out, and then write out some things on, here's what I learned, here's something I need to work on, to then talk with you about it. So it saves you from having to do the disciplinary kind of talk with them. You're just going to assign them material. So you'll be in here as an instructor so you can see what they do, and they're in here as students. So that part is all, again, hidden from students. But the skills training is there for them to see. Then there's things on preparing for their career and how to succeed in college. So these don't apply to your job, but they're just resources to help them prepare for their careers in the future. And then over time, we might put more things in here, especially when I do the professional development training. I'll have some of those added in here so that they can have that and refer back to it. And then some of those could even be used as assignments if you'd like to do that. So we can work through that as that time goes. But that's just a little look of what's going on in here. But for you in the info for hiring supervisors, there'll be these videos on how to actually work your way through here and take advantage of this. If you have any questions, let me know. And other than that, have a great day.